She just got up to close the door when a drunk man happened to walk in. The girl, dressed in revealing clothes, had no idea how terrifying things were about to get. After putting on her coat, the girl rushed back to her boyfriend's side. But the next second, the drunk man pulled back the curtain, and behind him stood a group of men. They were security guards for a drilling company, living long time in a remote mountainous area where no one lived. Under the influence of alcohol, the drunk man sat right on the edge of the bed and began to harass the girl without restraint. His co-workers did nothing to stop him. Instead, they stood by, watching with interest. Seeing this, the boyfriend couldn't hold back and kicked the drunk man off the bed. He thought that would put an end to things, but the drunk man became even more aggressive. Since they were co-workers, the boyfriend didn't want to escalate the situation. He shoved the drunk man away and shut the door again. But before he could get fully dressed, chaos erupted. The co-workers behind the drunk man revealed their true nature. Because the girl was a Native American, they felt it didn't matter. Watching his girlfriend being humiliated, the boyfriend lost all sense of reason and began to fight back with everything he had. Just as he was about to beat the man to death, the other co-workers rushed over to break it up. They quickly overpowered the boyfriend. Seeing her boyfriend restrained, the girl fearlessly rushed forward. In the scuffle, everyone lost control. The scene turned into an all-out brawl. When both of them were knocked out and went still, those animals took advantage of the moment and assaulted the girl repeatedly. Just then, the boyfriend stood up again. Using the last of his strength, he fought with the men once more, and in his final moments, he urged his girlfriend to run. The girl struggled to her feet. As she left, she gave him one last, tearful look. To escape the monsters chasing her, she ran through snow-covered wilderness in minus 29 degrees Celsius temperatures. But in that desolate mountain, there was no signal, no roads, and the nearest rescue on horseback was more than 10 kilometers away. With the freezing weather and her injured body, it was impossible for her to survive. She didn't get far before collapsing. The bitter cold had already crystallized fluid in her lungs, and her unprotected limbs suffered various degrees of frostbite. Even so, she didn't give up. The next day, a hunter named Corey spotted a trail of bloody footprints. Alerted, he changed into white camouflage, grabbed his weapon, and followed the trail. Not long after, a blue silhouette appeared in the distance. Corey grew tense and cautiously approached. When he got close, he was horrified. The girl had frozen into a block of ice, long since dead. But the most shocking part was, he knew this girl. Her name was Lily. Seeing her like this, Corey was overwhelmed with grief. He knew she must have suffered immensely before dying. To uncover the truth, he immediately radioed the local sheriff. Due to the severity of the case, the FBI sent a female agent to investigate. Soon after, the sheriff and the agent arrived at the scene. Lily's main cause of death was running long distances in extreme cold, causing her lungs to freeze and bleed internally. She essentially drowned in her own blood. But here was the question. Why would a girl be running barefoot in the middle of nowhere? What had she gone through? Lily had 2 broken ribs, head trauma from blunt force, and signs of tearing in her lower body, all indicating she had been assaulted before death. The lead agent, Banner, wanted the medical examiner to list the case as homicide, but the examiner refused. He insisted that the cause of death was pulmonary hemorrhage, and that the reason behind it wasn't within his scope to determine. Banner was furious, because if the death wasn't ruled as murder, his superiors would shut down the case, and Lily's story would likely be forgotten. Alone, Banner knew she had to solve this case by herself. To find the truth, she went to Lily's home. She started by blaming her father for failing to protect her, but the father replied that Lily was an adult, free to choose where to go and who to date. Banner initially thought the family was cold and indifferent, as if they didn't care about Lily's death. But after seeing her mother tormented by grief, she realized how wrong she was. The father's coldness and hostility weren't because he didn't care, but because of years of systemic neglect from the government toward Native Americans. Soon after, Corey came to visit Lily's father. When they met, the father's eyes welled up with tears. What parent could stay calm after losing a child in such a horrific way? Corey understood his pain deeply. He had also lost a daughter. To this day, her death remained a mystery, and the tragedy had torn his family apart. Seeking more leads, they questioned Lily's younger brother, Sam, a lazy, aimless teenager. As Banner and the sheriff knocked on the door, Corey instinctively circled to the back. Moments later, a dazed young man stepped out. Thinking they were there to arrest him for drugs, he played it cool, but slowly slipped a hand into his pocket. The sudden attack caught them off guard, and both men clawed at their eyes in pain. Luckily, they managed to signal Corey in time. Meanwhile, Corey crept around the back of the house. He grabbed the shovel and calmly waited by the back door. With one swing of the shovel, Corey easily took down 2 of the drug addicts. Meanwhile, Banner kicked open the door and rushed inside. The place was a total dump. The stench and the earlier spray to the face made her eyes and nose run uncontrollably. There was no time to dwell on it. Holding her breath, she began searching room by room. When the 2 of them came back outside, Corey had already tied up the addict. At first, the guy thought the police were there to arrest him, but after talking to them, he was shocked to learn his sister was dead. The reason they came was just to ask if he knew who his sister's boyfriend was and what his name might be. Later, while the police were handling the body, Corey pointed something out to Banner. A trail of sled marks in the snow stretching from where they stood toward the distant forest. Strangely, there were only tracks going out, none returning, and the trail led directly to where Lily's body was found. In search of answers, the 2 of them rode snowmobiles and followed the tracks into the woods. They parked and continued on foot, but what they saw shocked them. Half of a corpse lay out in the open, mud and frozen. They returned to report what they found. An autopsy would be needed to confirm the victim's identity. Whether the 2 deaths were connected remained unclear. That evening, Banner returned with the report. He told White that the body they found was a man named Matt, a contracted security guard for a nearby drilling station. For safety, Banner and the sheriff went to a police station several kilometers away in Wyoming and brought a few officers with them to check the station. At the same time, Corey split off from them. He rode a snowmobile alone back to the place where Matt's body was found. The sheriff's group approached the drilling station from below the mountain. Corey soon arrived at the top of the mountain and followed the snowmobile tracks downward, which, to his surprise, led straight to Matt's former workplace, the drilling site. Back down the slope, Banner and the others were slowly approaching the station. A bad feeling suddenly crept over Corey. The next morning, the sheriff gathered all the local officers and headed to the site. As a hunter, Corey instinctively scouted the surrounding area. A security guard noticed and came forward to talk. The sheriff asked about Matt, and the guard said that 3 days earlier, Matt had argued with his girlfriend and the 2 left together, never returning. They were waiting for the company to decide whether to report it. As they spoke, more security guards came over, but Banner noticed something off. Many of the guards had bruised faces. When questioned, the guards made up a casual excuse, but it didn't hold up for long. As they chatted, Banner brought up Lily, and just a few words made one guard slip up. The atmosphere grew tense. Clearly, something was wrong with these guards, but they weren't afraid of Native Americans. They all pulled out their guns. The officers did the same. It was a dangerous standoff. One wrong move and it would become a bloodbath. Trying to defuse the situation, Banner quickly announced he was with the FBI and was the first to lower his weapon. At such close range, a firefight would have been deadly for everyone. Inexperienced, Banner thought he had just prevented disaster, but in truth, things were only just beginning. At his request, the group headed toward Matt's cabin. Watching from above, Corey sensed danger. When his radio calls went unanswered, he grabbed his weapon and sprinted downhill, but it was already too late.
FBI, apra la porta!
A gunfight broke out. Everyone reacted on instinct, pulling their triggers. Banner survived thanks to his bulletproof vest, but the guards' firepower was overwhelming. The sheriff and several officers were gunned down one by one. One officer kept guiding the others, but he too was eventually hit. The guards wore body armor, and the police were outgunned. In the end, all the officers except Banner died at the scene. Just as Banner thought he was about to die too, a loud gunshot rang out. A guard was blasted several meters away. From a distance in the snow, Corey, dressed in a white ghillie suit, had arrived. The guards couldn't even see him. Like lambs to the slaughter, they were picked off one by one. Once he cleared out the ones outside, the 2 remaining guards inside panicked and tried to locate Corey. But in the next second, the ringleader dropped to his knees and kicked open a window to escape from the back. Banner, having crawled out from behind a crate, emptied his clip at the fleeing guard, but he missed the vital areas, and the man managed to flee into the deep forest. Corey soon caught up. Luckily, Banner's injuries were minor. After quickly patching him up, Corey set out to capture the escaping guard. Little did that man know, he was now in the exact same situation Lily had been in. Wounded, terrified, every breath reminding him that death was close. While he was stumbling through the snow, Corey caught up and knocked him out with a blow to the head. When the man came to, he found himself at the snowy mountain's peak. Corey had taken his shoes, just as Lily had died barefoot in the snow. He now wanted the man to feel the same pain. Corey told him, "If you confess everything, I'll spare your life." Under the threat of death, the man confessed everything that had happened that night in full detail. Once Corey learned the truth, he kept his promise and untied the man.
Non capisco. Che cosa vuoi che faccia? Voglio che corri.
Lily, driven by the will to survive, had run over 6 kilometers through the snowy night. But this beast of a man couldn't even make it 600 meters before collapsing. Like Lily, he ended up choking on his own blood in the snow. He may never have understood just how terrified and helpless that 18-year-old girl must have felt, running barefoot through the freezing night. In the end, Corey found his closest friend and told him, "The animals who took your daughter's life have all paid the price." The two men sat together, praying that their daughters, in the next world, would never be hurt again and could live in peace and happiness.